Hi everyone, I'm going to make a Penang curry prawn, one of my favourite Thai dishes. So first thing, I've got the pot on nice warm heat and I'm going to be putting in some Penang curry paste. So you'll start to hear that sizzle, and then to complement that I'm putting in some fish sauce, letting the two start to mix together. And then I'm going to add some palm sugar. So the objective here is that we're making the sugar melt with the paste, and that'll give us a nice thicker paste in the pan. So I've used 3/4 of a tablespoon of Penang curry paste, and my favorite brand that I use is called May Ploy Penang curry paste, and I've just used 4 cubes of palm sugar, which is around about, sometimes you can get them in discs, it's about 3 small discs of palm sugar. So it depends on where you buy them from. So I get mine from my local Thai supermarket. So as you can see, this is becoming a thicker red paste. So I'm just going to let that continue to melt together. We've got some beautiful flavours coming through. Just keep on stirring that over. So it almost looks like it's a chutney or a jam consistency that we get in the pot. And the key is not to put that too high. I'm using a cast iron pot. Some people do this in a wok. If you're doing it in a wok, make sure that the heat's not too high, otherwise the paste burns with the sugar. So I've also added fish sauce into this, just about 2 teaspoons of fish sauce, and I guess you can add fish sauce later because you need to adjust the flavors. Fish sauce is salty, palm sugar is quite sweet. Okay, so getting a beautiful paste, again the mix of the curry paste, the palm sugar and the fish sauce. So the next ingredient I'm going to add in is the coconut milk. So I've bought a tin of coconut milk. I guess the key here is don't shake it before you open it. The simple reason is you get a nice thick texture of coconut milk at the top. So I'm just now going to scoop out the coconut milk. So as you can see, it's nice and thick. I'm just going to let that sit in the pan, just like this. Get some nice chunky pieces of coconut. Now the reason why I choose to do it like this is because making the coconut thick will give you a thicker curry. If you do shake the coconut tin beforehand, then you'll get a thinner curry coming through. But I prefer a thicker curry myself. So again, some nice texture. What you get left in the pan is just the liquid at the bottom, but just keep that to the side for the time being. So what we'll do now is we just stir in that nice thick curry paste with the Penang. And again, I like to keep the heat on the same temperature. What we're looking to achieve is for the coconut milk to slightly bubble, but not to boil. And when it starts to bubble, that's when you know it's ready for other ingredients to be added. So for today, I'm going to be using prawns for this curry, as mentioned earlier on. So you can choose to put tofu, vegetables, chicken, meat. It really depends on what flavor you're after. So I like tofu as well in this curry. It's really nice. So what will happen over time is that the color of the curry will change. So it'll start off looking quite kind of orangey brown, but essentially it will eventually become a red color. So just let that continue to boil for a little bit. Just making sure that there are no chunks left to the paste. So what I also like to do at this point is add in Kaffir lime leaves. I just let them rest in, and they've got a really unique flavour. So they're not lime leaves, they're Kaffir lime leaves. So the Kaffir lime leaf is particularly only available in Thai restaurants typically, or Asian grocers, and it has this beautiful smell. So if you give them a little bit of a bend as well, what it does, it helps release some of the flavours coming through. So I'm just going to sit that into the pan, and that's going to nicely absorb some of the flavours. So as you can see, the colour of the curry is starting to change already, and it's slightly bubbling. So it's not boiling, slightly bubbling. If it's bubbling too much, then just reduce the heat slightly, and that way it won't overcook. All right, so I'm now going to just lower that a little bit more, midway down, and I'm going to add in the meat. So as I mentioned, so today I'm using prawns. So I'm just going to add the prawns into the dish. Now I like to make my curries a bit more of a dry curry, not necessarily a runny curry. So that's why I've used the quantity of the coconut milk. You can choose to shake the coconut tin beforehand, but again, you'll have a very runny curry, but if you prefer that, that's absolutely fine. So these prawns are fresh prawns, and just keeping them in here to cook, they will eventually start to change colour as they are now, and will end up looking a very familiar pinkish prawn colour. And I love prawn meat, but also, as I mentioned, have done this with vegetables. The prawn meat really absorbs the flavour, and we're getting some really nice smells coming through the dish at the moment. So it's not bubbling too much at the moment, which is perfect. I'm just going to let that sort of settle in. You can see the nice red flaky chili coming through as well. So just pop that heat up just a little bit more. And some of the prawns are already starting to change colour. So you can see here already we're getting a nice white meat with a nice orange flavour, or colour rather, coming through. So I'm going to continue to stir that in. So while that's cooking away, I'm just going to leave that there for one quick moment. I'm also going to get another Kaffir lime leaf. So I put 3 Kaffir lime leaves in total into the dish. So a good little secret is to slice it into a few pieces. So to achieve that, I'm just going to grab a board and a knife, and I'm going to roll that up. Okay, so I have the Kaffir lime leaf just here. I'm just going to roll this up almost to like a very thin cigarette, and just really slice it nice and thin. See, some nice little thin bits coming through. And again, this just adds additional flavour to the curry overall. Nice thin pieces, because it's actually a beautiful flavour to eat when you combine this together with your prawns and the curry paste. I really love this fresh smell. And Kaffir lime leaf can be used in stir fries as well. Obviously best to slice them very thin. Okay, so we just sprinkle those in for the time being, and just continue to stir that in. All right, that smells really good. Okay, I'm just gonna let that kind of simmer away for a little bit. So the important thing is to make sure that all the meat is cooked through, and I think slow cooking it at this point is actually perfect, because if you do put the heat up too much, what it will do is it'll overcook the meat, it'll make it a bit chewy, and you'll still have this runny paste. By keeping it on a decent heat, so that mid-range, if you're using a different cooktop to what I'm using at the moment, with a flame, just a mid-flame, just enough so it just continues to bubble through, and the prawns are cooking. Okay, so that seems to be nicely cooked, and I think we're ready to be served. So I'm just gonna move it away over to my plate, and we're just gonna slowly pour that in with a beautiful color coming through, and the prawns will slowly make their way into the plate. Okay. So some lovely garnish to go on top of that. So as you can see, the Kaffir Lime leaves are just nicely resting through the curry. So at this point, I'm just going to place a few red chilies on. If you do like them extra hot, you can use those as well. Just put those on as a bit of garnish. And then we get our Kaffir Lime leaves that we used before, and we just sprinkle those on top just to give it a bit of colour. There we go. And one small thing I do like to do, it's very little, but I just like to drop some droplets of coconut milk on top, again just to give it a nice little texture. So there you have it. That is Penang curry with prawns, and we're going to serve that up with some rice in a bit and then eat, because I'm starving.